Hi, my name is Mike Gilsbach. I'm with the Austin Scale Modeler Society, which is a local chapter of the International Plastic Modeler Society. I have been building models for about 30 years now. Built models for competitions, and I have helped to judge models in competitions. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the criteria that we use to judge models in competitions. Now, the International Society has a long list of fairly complicated guidelines that we look at, but today we're just going to talk about some very high-level basic ones that we use. So when we're looking at a model, there's some major criteria that we want to look at to decide is this a good model or not. The first thing we look at is this an accurate or a good representation of the subject? Is it a good model of what it's supposed to be? We look at that. We also look at does it look realistic? It could be an accurate representation, but it could also look like a plastic toy. We don't want it to look like that. We want it to look realistic. And the third thing we look at is how well is the model done in terms of technique and attention to detail and those kinds of things. So let's look at a few very specific things along these lines. The first thing that we would look at is what I would call basic construction. So we're looking at how well is the model put together. We're looking at things like seams and alignment of the components. We're looking to make sure that there's no glue visible on the model. There's no deformations or things like that on there. So if we look at this particular one here, we can see that on the barrel of this tank we have a seam. That's bad. We wouldn't want to see that because there's not supposed to be a seam there. Of course there are seams on real things, but we don't want to see them on the model where they're not supposed to be. So we would ding them for that. On an airplane, we might look at, are the landing gear lined up properly? Are the wings lined up properly? Are they the same angle? Is the tail straight up or is it bent to one side or the other? We would look at how these parts go together, the seams where the wings come on there. We would be looking at all those things to make sure that the model's constructed well. It has what we call a clean build. The next thing that we would look at is the paint finish. So we would look at, does the model have a consistent finish across the whole thing? Are the details painted well? Now, models can have different finishes on them. So this model, for example, is a military model, has a very flat finish. So we'd be looking at, is that a consistent finish? Are the camouflage lines clear? Are things like the cockpit details and the parts of the windscreen, are those painted properly? Now we compare that, say, to this Air Racer, which has a gloss finish, different subject, has the appropriate finish on it. It's more of a gloss finish, but similar. Is it a consistent finish? Are the black and the red demarcated properly? Do we have nice clean details on the cockpit and on the canopy, those kinds of things? This Jeep here, we could look at all the details on here, all the backpacks and the ammunition, cartridges and things like that. Are these things all painted well and cleanly? They look realistic? How's that paint job look? Those are the things that we would look at for the paint. One other major factor we look at very often with models are decals. Most models have some decals on them, and there is a bit of an art to applying them and getting them right. And it's very important because it impacts the realism of the model. So on this model, for example, we can see if we hold it to the light, we can see that there's what we call silvering. There's a gloss finish that shows up on there. We don't want that. That's actually a bad thing because we want the decal to look like it's painted on the model. This is a much better example. You can see here that on this model, there's no silvering, there's no sheen on it. The decal is hugged up around the decals. That's what we want. We want it to look like it's been painted on there, just like it would be on the real subject. So we would judge based on the decals. We also look at proportions of the model. Proportions are very important. Everything has to look like it belongs together, nothing too big, too small. So when we look at these dioramas, for example, we have different elements within these dioramas. So we look at, are the trees the right size to go with the tank, and is all that the right size to go with the crew here? Does the snow look right? Is it all in proportion to scale? Likewise on the ship, we have lots of things going on here. We have the pilings, the dock, the things on the dock. Are all these things to scale, and do they look like they belong together at the same scale to proportion? And the water, the waves, all of that. We would look at all of that in totality to see if this is a good model or not. In terms of details, we obviously, of course, we look at the level of detail of the model and how well those details are executed. Detail matters. Detail is going to differ depending on the scale. The scale is very important. For example, if we have two ships up here. This particular ship is a 1/700 scale model. Okay, this ship behind it, this is a 1/350 scale model. Very different scales, very different levels of detail. Obviously, much more detail in this. Now on the 700 scale model here, we can see a fair amount of detail. You see the guns and the boats and those types of things, but it's a world of difference when we look at the 350 scale model. You can see the railings, the ladders, much more details on the guns. Even looking at things like the rangefinders here, we can see that on the smaller model, it's really just sort of one single piece of plastic, whereas on the larger model, much more complicated, multiple pieces, much higher level of detail. So the level of detail is going to be appropriate to the scale of the model that you've built. So we would certainly look at all those things, and those things all matter. But mostly what we're looking for at the end of the day is does it look like what it's supposed to represent? And did you do a nice job? Did you show some attention to detail building it? And that would pretty much sum up what we look at in terms of judging a model.